Just because I'm wearing a tank top doesn't mean I'm lifting weights.
I was just giving credit where credit is due, and that is straight to your biceps. You can take a look at all the guys that Michael just talked about and who I was not fully listening to him on.
Triple shimmy. Got him. And Fuentes hits a grinder behind the back rim by Strowman, but can he get it there in time? Just barely.
We like to call them an egg Sammy here.
Oh, yeah. We definitely don't do that here.
Struck him out.
Paying homage to Tommy Lasorda.
The enthusiasm needs to get higher for that. It's hump day in baseball.
Good morning. Welcome to SP Streamer Live. I'm your host, Michael Simione. You can follow me on Twitter at SP Streamer. Today's episode, we're going to talk about some streaming real quick, but then really going to dive into some hot and cold pitchers. To do so, I ended up having a guest on, and that is Frank Ammirante, who writes for Rotoballer plus other websites for football. So what's going on, Frank? How you doing?
Hey, how's it going? It's good. Nice Thursday morning. Perfect day to talk some baseball, talk some pitchers with the streamer himself. I'm honored.
And I just realized in the intro video, I'm wearing the same tank top I'm wearing right now, where Doug makes fun of me for wearing it. Frank, just real quick, tell everyone where they can find you on Twitter and everything else you do, because I said football websites, but I forgot which one. So if you can mention those two.
Sure. So you can find me at Ammirante TFJ on Twitter. It's spelled Ammirante. And I'm always willing to engage in debate on whether it's baseball or football. Those are my two sports I really focus on. And I write for Rotoballer. I'm focusing on a lot of DFS content for MLB. And I also write for the Game Day, where I write about football and baseball and dabble in some sports betting, as well as 4for4 football, where I also write about season-long football leagues. And I just started a podcast on the Fantasy Jones, which you could follow at the Fantasy Jones. We focus on football, but I know I said a lot of football there, but I focus a lot on baseball as well. And I'm heavy into the season with DFS and season-long leagues, NFBC. So I'm happy to talk baseball here.
Yeah, I don't know how you do it or anyone does it. Like even like Sedler does both sports, and like people have asked me, they're like, you stream for baseball. They're like, why don't you do something for football? Like it's a lot more popular, obviously. And I was just like, I don't have the time to do that. I wouldn't be able to like study for it and actually like look into things. And I know analytics are starting to kind of like take off there, which is cool. But I don't have the time. I don't know how people have time to do that both. So all the credit to you.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to run through the streaming chart real quick. Then we're going to talk about some hot and cold pitchers. So let's do the chart real fast. We discussed this yesterday, so I'm not going to go into depth the first 2 days. But for today, this actually switched. Originally Lester was going to start today, but now he got pushed to tomorrow. Now it's Joe Ross for today. I'm just going to roll with him. I don't think it's a good streaming day at all. I mean, your only like really good option matchup wise is Chad Kuhl, but I can't really trust him. So I'm going to stick with Joe Ross for today in all three leagues. Now for tomorrow, Frank, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Tony Gonsolin's our Shao League pick. I can't decide between Will Crow against St. Louis, who's struggling, or John Lester, who's going against Miami, that struggles against lefties. So, Frank, you're going to make the decision for me. Who are you going to go with?
You know what? I got to go with John Lester here. I mean, both options I'm not huge on. Just like Will Crow struggles with some control. I'm just picking Lester because I prefer the matchup there against Miami, and obviously he's on a better team with the Nationals, better chance for you to get the win. I know it's a tough call there just because none of them really pique your interest too much, but I'd rather go with Lester in this case.
Yeah. I was leaning that way, but I wasn't sure. I'm like a Will Crow fan, so I think that was what was swaying me a little bit too much. Just because I'm hoping he starts going to breaking balls more, but we'll see what happens there. All right, so we're going with Tony Gonsolin, Chow leagues. Otherwise, if he's taking, get John Lester if you want to stream. Again, another day that's not too great. We've had some really good days recently and some really good options, but now they're kind of falling off a little bit. The rest of the way for that day, I mean, Canyon against the Rays is a little risky, but they're not as good against righties. Peterson against Atlanta. The Braves have been struggling against lefties, and Peterson has pitched well in the past 2 games. And then Dunning has that strikeout upside, especially against the Royals, and the rest of the way is just kind of meh. So not the best options, some decent options, but we'll see. As for this 26th, we're going to go JT Brubaker as our Shaw League option. Against St. Louis makes a lot of sense. Brubaker's been pitching really well. St. Louis has really been struggling, so makes a lot of sense there. I do like what Gilbert's doing. I recently tweeted about him, but he gets the White Sox. That's a bit of a tough matchup. I know they're struggling, but do not trust that. And then main deep leagues, I'm just going to go with Adrian Hauser against the Rockies. I know Story's been on fire, but I think, typically Rockies on the road aren't a good thing. So that's going to be it for the 26th. And that's going to be it for that. Again, we were just going to do that quickly because we are here to talk about hot and cold starters as of late. So first guy we're going to talk about, all these stats are last 30 days, just to kind of, catch some trends, see what we believe and what we don't believe. First guy is going to be Yusei Kikuchi. In his last 5 starts, he has a 2.05 ERA with 8.22 K per 9. So Frank, do you think he is going to be better moving forward, be about what he's been the whole season, or you think he's going to actually regress a little bit?
Well, I think I was high on Kikuchi coming into the year. I mean, his peripheral stats were up across the board, his swinging strike rate, he added velocity. So I was high on him coming to the year. I think he could maintain what he's been doing this season. Obviously his last 5 starts he had a 2.05 ERA. He's not going to keep something like that up because that was a stretch where he faced he had 3 good matchups. The Rangers 28th against lefties in WRC plus, Cleveland 27th, the Rays 24th, and he had almost a 90% strand rate and a 205 BABIP during this hot streak. So obviously he's not going to be that sub 3 pitcher, but he could still give you maybe a high 3 ERA throughout the rest of the season, with around similar strikeout rates and what he's put, like a 24% K rate around there. He'll be a solid pitcher that I think will stay the same in terms of his overall numbers.
Yeah, I'm like you. I really liked him coming into the season. He, with the added velocity, the new pitch, with the cutter. So I liked him a lot, and I'm just going to point out real quick, which is something kind of interesting. So he's actually increased velocity by month for this season. If you just look at the fastball velocity overall, that's all the black. Look how much it has jumped. It jumped from, 2019 to 2020, and now it looks like it's jumping again a little bit in 2021. And then you can see the added cutter here. Yeah, if his velocity is going up a little bit, maybe again, like you said, he's not going to be a sub 3 guy, but I think maybe he can, finish the season with like a low 3 to mid 3 ERA, and he's got that strikeout upside. So he's definitely interesting. If you have him, keep holding. Obviously, we both like him, so just keep rolling with that. All right. Next pitcher, Luis Garcia. In his last 5 starts, he has a 2.08 ERA and a 9.79 K per 9. Seems like the Astros just keep churning out these pitchers that have been really good, which is crazy. What are your thoughts on him, Frank?
Really like Luis Garcia. Like you mentioned, the Astros have such a great track record with pitchers. You have to trust them as an organization. And it seems like he's getting better as he goes along through the season. You talked about his last 5 starts, 2.08 ERA and almost a 10 K per 9. Look at these matchups he faced in that stretch. The Dodgers, second versus righties in WRC plus. The Red Sox, 9th. The Jays, 4th. The Twins, 10th. The White Sox, 12th. These were tough matchups. Wow. So I think he's legit. And I went on a podcast, the Draft Champions podcast at Zach Roto. You can follow him at Zach Roto. And one of my bold predictions was I think Luis Garcia could finish with a sub 3 ERA. So I'm high on him here on out. And like you said, just trusting in the Astros here.
Yeah. I mean, what I'm going to pop up is just insane. I mean, look at the movement on his pitches. All this red basically means how much above average he is in terms of movement. So not only does he have a lot of horizontal break, he's got a lot of vertical break, especially with the four seam, which is what you want to see. The slider is just ridiculous in terms of movement. He's got that really good cutter to come off that four seam. So yeah, I mean, the movement is just insane. If you look at his pitches, you're like sitting there like, how the heck does anyone hit this guy ever? So yeah, it's crazy. It's just out of nowhere. Like
Yeah.
it's wild what some of these teams do and how good they are at developing these pitchers and how they just have so many of them, it seems. So yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I like that prediction. That's pretty bold. If he fishes under a 3, that'll be pretty awesome. But I think he's definitely in the mid-3 range. So again, if you have him, keep holding on to him. He looks fantastic. And again, we both like him. All right, next pitcher, Chris Flexen, 5 starts, 2.41 ERA, a low K per 9 at 6.95. But we all know we're not really, trying to get strikeouts from Chris Flexen. But he has been pitching well and much better as of late. What do you think, Frank? Do you think this continues moving forward?
I think Flexen could maintain some semblance of value as a streamer, maybe especially when he's pitching at home against weaker offenses. We look at this stretch. He's had a nice stretch. But he's had some good matchups. The Rangers at home, the Rockies at home. We always like to take advantage of the Rockies when they play on the road. Yep. So, but his low strikeout rate makes me, less interested, but I'd be definitely looking at him in the certain matchups as a solid streamer. But I'm not going to be starting him in tougher matchups on the road, or it's not someone he's not a pitcher that I'd really stick to my roster if I'm in a crunch and I have a lot of injuries. With the way the injuries are, I'd make the move, but he looks like a matchup-based play going forward.
So moving forward, if you had a bet, under over 4 ERA rest of the way?
Under or over 4 ERA? I'm going to say, I would have to say probably under.
But barely?
Yeah, like a high 3.
Okay. Yeah. I'm with you there too. I mean, the only thing that I really found with him that's kind of the pitch mix has changed the same since he's been pitching better. So I was like, what's going on here? And again, I'm just going to throw some up real quick. This is his fastball velocity as well. And you could just see, the dots are the average, but you could just see it's trending up here, obviously. So, he's increasing some velocity. I think it's gone from like 92 on average to about 93 now. So maybe, plus the weather's getting warmer, so obviously you're going to start throwing a little faster. So it's good to see that uptick in velocity, almost like a mile an hour. So maybe that's what's helping him be a little more successful. I'm with you. I would say maybe high 3 ERA rest of the way, probably going to have some bumps in the road. But yeah, unless it's a 15-team league, I wouldn't take him and hold. I would just be playing the matchups as well. So far, me and you agree, Frank. All right. Zach Eflin, last 5 starts, 5.74 ERA, 8.78 K per 9. Has disappointed a lot of people. I claimed him as the next Matt Boyd before the season started because I felt like they had really similar profiles. What do you think of him moving forward, Frank?
Yeah, I really liked him coming into the year as well. But I still think he could have a strong finish to the season. I love his elite control. He does give up a lot of contact, but his overall surface stats are a little bit higher because of his last 2 matchups, which were tougher matchups. The Giants are 3rd against righties in WRC plus. The Dodgers are 2nd. Even before that, he had the Braves. So I think he can give you a stretch of strong production. He's someone I'm holding. I really love those pitchers who could who aren't too bad in strikeouts. Like he has a over 20% strikeout rate, and his control is elite. I really like that about him. So yeah. I think he'll improve the rest of the way. His overall numbers right now, 4.39 ERA. I think he could, from here on out, be a sub-4 pitcher.
So I think he improves, but I think it's very it's slightly. I don't think he's going to finish under a 4 ERA. I think the problem with him and why I said he's kind of like a Matt Boyd to me is I feel like he could get those strikeouts, right? I mean, like this season, he has games where he has 9 strikeouts, 8 strikeouts, 8 strikeouts, 8 strikeouts, 7 strikeouts. So like he can get strikeouts. But the problem with him is the home runs. And that was Boyd's problem as well. He has above average home run rate. And I mean, like I know the Giants are good, but he just let up 4 home runs to the Giants, right?
Yeah.
He let up 2 to the Rays, 2 to the Nationals. You know, it's just you can't be doing that in games. And I think until he figures out that problem and fixes it, then it's going to hold him back. So I can't really buy into Eflin until I see that happening and he lowers the hard contact. So again, my opinion moving forward, I feel like I don't know. I feel like until he fixes that, I can't be buying into him. If you have him, obviously hold him because it's not like he's bad where you can't start him. It's not like you can trade him. No one's going to take value for him. You know what I mean? So you're kind of stuck with him right now. But I'd keep holding. I do think he's better moving forward. I just don't think he's really going to get below that 4 ERA mark, or at least where you thought you were going to get him when you drafted him. All right. Next pitcher, Ryan Yarbrough, in his last 5 starts, 5.08 ERA, 8.29 K per 9. I was pretty big on him. Been pretty disappointing for me. I really like the way that he threw towards the outside of the zone with his fastballs and how they kind of tunneled really well with each other. He's had some bright moments. I kind of think at this point, maybe they just need to stick with an opener with him because he always just pitches so much better. And what's the difference? Just let someone go 1 inning and then throw him in there. Same thing. So yeah, what are your thoughts on him, Frank?
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Use that opener to start him off to just because he seems to really pitch better in that role. Yep. I think his overall numbers are a little skewed just because the tough matchups his last 2 where he just did not pitch well at all against the Red Sox and White Sox, 2 teams that are good against lefties. Even the Orioles, who
Orioles are like the best offense against lefties.
Yeah, they're very good against lefties. So he's had 3, and then before that, hey, the Yankees, the Phillies, the Jays, the Orioles, the Yankees, the Angels, the Astros, like he's had really tough matchups. So
I mean, the problem is with that too, though, is that he's in that division.
It's true.
You know what I mean? Like those teams kill. So like he's gonna have to fight through it, which stinks. I mean, that's obviously a really tough stretch and a really good point, and he's gonna have better stretches moving forward. So I do like that point, but that division's killer, especially for him.
For sure. Yeah. But hey, maybe the Rays with Tyler Glasnow, which sucks. They'll have to rely on guys like Yarbrough more. Like I don't know if we have to worry as much that they'll take him out of the rotation. Is what I'm getting at, kind of.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think he'll improve a bit, but he's not someone who I'm so hyped to have on my team going forward. It just he'll be like a streamer, basically.
Yes.
In deeper leagues, let's say if you're in NFBC leagues, maybe 15 teamers, he'd be on the fringe of my roster type of thing.
Yeah, I agree. Shall like 12 teamers, just stream him in the right opportunity. Otherwise, I agree with that. I mean, it's been disappointing, unfortunately, because he's been trending the right way for like 3 years now. Like swing strike percentage going up for 3 years, K percentage going up for 3 years, and it's just like I thought maybe he'd finally take that next step, and unfortunately, it's not happening. But like you said, they have injuries, so he's going to stay in the rotation, and so they let him go deep sometimes. He had that one game they let him go 9 innings, just
that was so random,
insane,
I was like,
so
what?
weird. It's like no rhyme or reason with them at all. It's mind blowing. But that's the Rays for you. All right, last pitcher we're going to talk about is Patrick Corbin. His last 5 starts, a 4.25 ERA, which isn't that bad. I know people still want the old Patrick Corbin with a 7.89 K per 9, which is obviously a big dip for him still. What's the deal with Patrick Corbin? Are you in 12 teams? Are you going to roster him? You can't let him go? What are your thoughts on him, Frank?
I'm disappointed with Corbin because he was one of those veterans who, like, I liked really targeting veterans this year coming off the COVID season because I thought we could give them a mulligan, disruption routine. They'd maybe bounce back. But he's one of the few who really haven't been able to get back to his old self. I mean, he's had he's had an okay stretch here, but he's still had pretty easy matchups throughout it. Like, You got to face the Mets when they were still not fully healthy. You got to face the Pirates, and his swinging strike rate is still way down compared to how he used to be when he was in top form, like in 2019. I believe in 2019 it was around 14%, and for this year it's at 10. And during this stretch, it's at 9. So he's not really missing bats as the way the old Corbin is. So I think we could safely say the old Corbin is not coming back, at least this year. But as for shallower league, let's say 12-teamers, I'd still, just because he's that name, I'd keep him, because you never know with these pitchers. They could just get the light switch can turn on again and they're back to form. So I'd keep him in those cases, but he'd be really on the fringe on my roster. I'm not too high on him going forward, but who knows?
What I'm curious with when it comes to Corbin is his pitch mix, because he always threw his slider like over 40% of the time in his really good seasons, and he's just not doing that. He's throwing it at 35% of the time. And now he's throwing the fastball more, which is just odd to me. I wonder if, like, for some reason when he's throwing the slider, maybe it's hurting his arm a little or something. I don't know. So I just feel like something's going on there, because it makes no sense. Like, he was so mediocre and then became amazing when he threw his slider a ton, and now all of a sudden he doesn't want to throw it anymore. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. So I don't really. He's such a mystery. It's just like you said, though. I mean, if he clicks randomly, like, yeah, he could be great. But I think if he doesn't do it this year, might be kind of over with him. It might be where he's hitting that cliff. So we'll see moving forward. But for the most part, I'm just kind of out on him. So that does it. Awesome. Thanks for coming on, Frank.
All right, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Before we end it, obviously, again, just reiterate where everyone can find you and where they could see your work and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so you could find me at Ammirante TFJ on Twitter. Love discussing baseball. You can find my work at Rotoballer, at the Game Day, and at 4for4 Football. For a baseball focus, more on Rotoballer. I also had some betting work on the Game Day related to baseball too. So you could find me there, and I'd love to interact with you on Twitter. And
Frank loves hot takes.
Oh, yeah. I love going out on a limb and, but hey, my hot takes are always, it's not like I'm just throwing, stuff at the wall and hope it sticks. When I make
I was going to say, is it really a hot take when you have, substantial evidence to back it up, though? What I mean? Which you always do, which is why I think that's why you got a following. Like you said, you're not someone who throws a hot take out there and just does it to do it and hope it comes true. You actually, have something behind it, which is good. So, I mean, Frank, I feel like we've kind of came into this at around the same time, and we know each other for a while. So I'm glad I finally got you on, even though it's 7 a.m. But thanks again, man. I appreciate it. For everyone listening, follow us on Twitter at SPStreamer. If you enjoyed the show, obviously follow us on Twitch, YouTube. If you really enjoyed it, subscribe to our Twitch. Also, make sure to check out our website, spstreamer.com. We will be back tomorrow morning. And then I don't know if I'm going to do a Saturday show. I might just take the weekend off, but we'll see. So thanks again, everyone. Have a good day, and we will see you tomorrow.